thing on X, right? He's been giving updates for days and really throughout the day today. He's been doing some great updates. So let's bring in the chief meteorologist for Fox 6, Tom Wachs. It's great to have you on, Tom. It's been a while.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
I know. Great to be with you.
Right. It's been a minute since you and I have been able to talk. The patio looks fresh and clean, but I want to ask you about, of course, the rain that you were anticipating having today, and then what you expect over the next several days as the Wisconsin State Fair is going to be back in action.
Yes, a lot of excitement, Steve, around here. First, let's talk about the rain that wasn't for most of at least southern Wisconsin today. This has been one of those days, which is very frustrating as a meteorologist because we were calling for over an inch of rain for today, and it didn't happen. We got a trace of rain in Milwaukee. So a lot of people are like, hey, what's the deal? You called for all this rain and nothing happened. Well, we had a stationary front that moved a little bit to the southeast, so it wasn't so stationary, and that sent the heavy rain farther south. So that kept most of southern Wisconsin dry, which is why you're seeing that heavy rain farther south, not so much in Wisconsin. Certainly a very frustrating day from a forecasting standpoint, but what we often say is, look, you can't hide behind a bad forecast. You've got to come out, you've got to really explain the science behind it, and this was one of those days, unfortunately, where the forecast didn't pan out, but you've got to own it, right? And that's what we've done today. Now, looking ahead, we have the Wisconsin State Fair that starts tomorrow, and the Wisconsin State Fairgrounds are just a few miles west of downtown Milwaukee. And I'm telling you, it is so exciting. It is going to be a great run for the State Fair. Now, humidity levels a bit high, but temperatures looking pretty good. Thunderstorm-wise, I think for the most part, we're going to be dry until Sunday night. Now, could have a couple of showers tomorrow morning, but all in all, no heat wave, Steve, coming in, and that's going to be a plus for the Wisconsin State Fair. Yeah, when you're talking about this summer stretch towards the end, you can really have any type of weather that sets up for the State Fair, so it's nice to get at least 3 days in where it looks really good, and then latter half of the weekend, early next week, maybe a little bit of action. And you've had actually a lot of severe storms so far this season. And most recently, Tom, and I know you were doing a great deep dive. By the way, for everybody at home, if you don't know, Tom does a podcast, and it's amazing his kind of in-depth knowledge of what he does as he kind of looks at these storms that set up or the overall weather pattern. One that you were talking about, Tom, was the Menasha tornado, right? EF3. In Appleton as well. It was about a week ago, and you posted a theory online about that formation where they kind of converged together with that. And we're looking at some video here that shows us what that moment was like. Now, I bring this up because you've had so many severe storms. This is the most recent of which, that EF3 tornado. But this brings me to something else that you posted on social media, that you attended a very special weather conference a few days ago. And there's a weather project that you're going to be included in, at least the state of Wisconsin. Let's take a listen to this first.
It's a matter of just assessing, can it happen here? And if it did, what would I do? And there's a lot of great information out there to answer that question. The Weather Enterprise provides that information, so it's a matter of being connected to those trusted sources.
So that's one of the brilliant minds that was at the conference. I want to ask you about those two components, Menasha, the violent tornadoes, but severe weather. You're going to be included in that new research project. Walk us through what you know.
Yeah, so Steve, this is really wild. First, the Menasha portion. So that was an EF3 tornado. I have a theory, and I think this is going to be studied by meteorology students for quite a while, and it should be, because there was a line of thunderstorms that came in, and then a little rain shower came in and really intersected the storm right around Appleton, Wisconsin, and then just south into Menasha. My theory, and again, it's a broad one at this point, is that there was just enough helicity or rotation with that rain shower that interacted with the supercell that was a part of that line that likely caused or increased the rotation in the Appleton area and either caused or increase the intensity of that spin and of that tornado there. Again, there's going to have to be more of a deep dive into that, but that's just my theory at this point, really somewhat similar to what happened back in 2013 in Moore, Oklahoma. So I think that's going to be interesting research, but that's just my base theory on that. Now, connecting Menasha to the conference that I attended just down the road here the other day, earlier this week. Who you heard from there is Dr. Laura Myers, and she is a researcher, really world class, at the University of Alabama, and she is also a social scientist. So she studies human behavior as it relates to meteorology and why people make the decisions that they do. In addition to that, we had Dr. David Roosh. He is a structural engineer at Auburn University, and he studies tornado damage, hurricane damage, and damage on houses. For example, one of the interesting points that we've learned about the Menasha tornado, so kind of connecting them here, is that there was a total house that was destroyed in Menasha, yet it was rated an EF3, not an EF5. Why? Well, it turned out that the house was not connected to the foundation. So when that tornado hit, it completely blew the house away. Yeah. Even though the rest of the houses were not. Interesting, right? And something else that we learned, Steve, is if you keep your doors and your windows and, most importantly, your garage door closed, that helps to keep the wind out. Not saying that you won't have damage, but you don't want to let the wind in for free, whether it's a hurricane or a tornado, right? So shut everything down before that storm hits.
So fascinating, right? How does the public receive the message, and then ultimately, what's the structural integrity? It makes me think of something that's close to home for me, Tom, which is Hurricane Andrew back in '92. My family was hit by that, as many in South Florida, and they changed the building codes in Florida because of that. Now you start thinking about tornadoes. Is there a way that we can build better and make sure that we can be prepared for those type of events? So glad that you could give us that insight, Tom. I want to pick your brain about the future now, though, right? Because July was a little bit dry for you, but we know the Super El Nino is here and it's going to peak at the end of the tropics or into the fall and winter months. What does that mean for your region of the Midwest?
That's a great question. I've heard you talking all day today, too, about the tropics, right? And the impact of the Super El Nino in the tropics. Well, here in the upper Midwest, it's a little less clear because we get a little more impacted, of course, by the jet stream, the wind off of Lake Michigan and things like that. But the seasonal outlook as we head into winter is warmer and drier. Now, does that mean we won't get snowstorms? No, but it could mean trending a little more warmer and drier. Now, that could potentially mean more ice storms, right? Depending on temperatures and the jet stream and all of that. So that's what we're going to be watching for. I think it's certainly going to have an impact on our winter, given the magnitude, as you've been talking about, Steve, of this El Nino. I mean, this is a big deal. So I certainly think it's going to have an impact all across our country. However, the exact specific impact, I think, remains to be seen. But this is something that we really need to keep an eye on. Again, generally warmer and drier here, at least in the northern part of the United States. But, you know, specifically storm by storm, I think it's going to be pretty interesting here as we head into the winter.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked earlier about how difficult it is on any given day to forecast the weather. We're talking months in advance, but it is a signal, right? It's a sign, and when you have a Super El Nino, one that could be historic, it's something to take note of, especially for many of these areas in the northern tier where that could mean a vastly different fall and winter setup, all because of the polar jet being forced to the north. Such great time being able to dive deeper into all these topics. Of course, Tom, thank you for joining us here on Fox Weather tonight, and I'm looking forward to hopefully some of your social media posts from the Wisconsin State Fair. I want to see what you're going to sink your teeth into as you get out to the fairgrounds.
Everything on a stick, Steve. Everything on a stick. I'll keep you posted for sure.
Okay.
Thank you for having me tonight.
All right. This sounds like a good time. Tom, thank you. We're going to